Thank you all again for participating in what is really this very new 21st century moment of interacting with people both alive and in front of you and alive all over the country simultaneously. The thing I want to stress is that wherever you are, we're all in this together. And that having heard from so many people in recent weeks, especially what we might call post-pandemic, although it's hardly post in many ways, there's a lot of what I would call confusion about moving forward, because it doesn't feel like stepping back into what was. And it's not really certain how we're stepping into what is. There's so much profound uncertainty in all of our lives, and mixing and matching is complicated. I was in the supermarket the other day. Half the people wore masks, half the people did not wear masks. What side were you supposed to be on? We're hearing about enormous disruptions of violence and unhappiness and stress and strain. And there's really a lot of suffering going on around us, and a lot of it's fermenting, it's not even expressed. There's a lot of confusion. People, human beings, don't deal well with uncertainty, and yet, honestly, the world has never been anything but uncertain. And not knowing what comes next when the immediate moment is threatening or unknown is difficult when you don't know what's going to come next in the next few years or the next millennium or something. But what's happening now is very in front of us, very immediate. A few of us have relatively predictable days and life is fine. And I bow down to everybody who's managing well at this time. But there are a fair number of people who've reached out to me who are not managing well, who are stressed by the changes, by the transformational quality of what's happening and how big it all feels. And yet here we are, intimately, quietly living our lives with ourselves, whoever we are, and feeling stuff going on and trying to figure out, okay, now how do I move forward? And the guideposts for that are not that much outside ourselves. The real guideposts are, well, I have to go shopping and I have to call so-and-so and maybe go to work. Some of us, like me, are still working. And that commonality, that certainty is really helpful. But for people who are not experiencing that certainty, and there are a fair number of you who I am in touch with who are not, the day has to form by what arises, what appears, both from outside and from inside. And if you don't have an inner arising taking place, and you're relying on the outside to provide you with guidance and substance and knowing, you may be lucky and it may arrive. Something may come and say, you should do this. You got to do that. But for many people, there is no guidance. There is no outer thing other than fill the tank of the car today. And I must say, for some people, that's a big deal. That's like a day's work. But the real thing that's arising and needs to arise comes from deep inside. And if you don't have a channel for that directive to occur, you will be very obstructed in your day-to-day life, and you will feel a lot of fear and frustration and pain and uncertainty, and it will, in a way, overtake you. If that is happening to you, Sit down, take a breath, go deep inside to your heart chakra, go into your belly, navel chakra, and sit quietly and wait and wait. And I promise you, if you knock, the door shall open. If you seek, you will find. If you ask, it will be revealed to you. And if you do that little bit of work, this thing will start to open and something will come up, and it will be a kind of do this, do that. Simple. It may be call your mother. Call your friend you haven't spoken to in 6 months. Reach out. Write down your feelings. Write a poem. Take out a piece of paper and see where your hand goes with a pen or a pencil or a crayon. See what happens. What does it say to you? What is it that's starting to move? And if your hand just sits at the middle of that paper long enough, something rises up and it speaks to you. You may not know what it says immediately, but you will feel something is in touch with who you are and what you are. And that attunement, that being in touch with something, is the beginning of comfort. It's the beginning of gratitude. It's the beginning of, I'm okay. We're okay. And trust me, in turbulent times of transformation and change, finding a space that's okay involves real effort and real work and constancy. And if you're just waiting for the outside to give it to you, it will, in time, give you direction, information. It will say, go to the bathroom, cook dinner, wash the dishes. It does that. But if you're looking for something inside to fulfill you, to make you feel purposeful, make you feel alive and worthy of being here, sit down and wait for that to announce itself. And when it announces itself, if you're quiet enough, well, okay. It could be as simple as go for a walk. It could be as simple as take a bath, sit on the porch, have a cup of tea. These are the kinds of messages I get. It's okay to do nothing. It's okay to just be. It's okay to take a nap, to sit in a lounge chair. It's okay to go over and hug your wife for no reason. It is really shocking what comes up. And you start to get feedback from those experiences. The bath feels like, oh, the cup of tea is like so satisfying. Hugging your partner is a gift. It doesn't have to come from you want something or you need something, or that it just comes because you want to do it. You want to do it. It leads you. And then you go, well, what is this thing that is leading me to reach out and call? It is this divine, simple directive to serve the world, to do the thing that wants to be done. It's a quiet voice. It's a simple voice. But when you listen to it, it really commands you in how to live day by day. In simpler times, it's not a big deal. In simpler times, you go, okay, I don't know, you go around life and it's kind of like this, you just operate and it feels fine and it's good. And I watch many people do that. They have no idea how powerful the directives are in go to that aisle and pick out that banana. It's like, okay, I go there, I'll pick up. It's not like that. It's really like go to the aisle, look at the bananas, feel which ones are ripe in your style and in your need, lift them up, put them in your basket, and go. There's an amazing reality to that. I know it sounds so mundane, but when you are attuned to the directive and you follow it and you do it, there's a sense of comfort. And you know that you are in flow and in touch. In easy times, that is not that hard. In difficult times, or strange times, or crazy times, or times of alteration and upheaval, those kinds of simple actions save your life. And we are, as I talk about weekly, as a dramatist and a film writer and someone who plays with these things, we are entering a very strange period. I'm talking about the foreshadowing that's happening in the early acts of what's coming toward us. Whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know. But my sense is, from the pandemic on, we are in a new age. We are in a new moment. And there are seed forms that are fermenting, moving around, that are not all totally loving and supportive. When that starts to happen, you can defend yourself, probably ineffectively, against the forces of the universe, which you think are not what they should and are supposed to be. Or you can find your way back to this simple guidance, this simple appreciation of writing a note to somebody and saying hi, getting on the phone, going for a walk, deciding whether you want oranges or 10 jellos, figuring out what is really important in the moment, and you will see it will create a stability and a centering and a sense of being that will ride out all of the stuff that happens around you. My YouTube thing gives me all these strange things to look at. I don't know how it knows me. I don't know what the algorithms are, but for some reason, last night it gave me images of Berlin in 1938 and 1945. Clearly massive, massive transformations between those 2 years. 8 minutes, I couldn't even watch more than 3. It just got hard to watch, but it was really fascinating. People going about their days. In the Berlin of 1938, they were driving cars. In the Berlin of 1945, cars were all damaged and broken everywhere, and people were riding bikes and walking. In 1938, there were flags hanging and people marching and all this kind of dramatic stuff. In 1945, people were passing bales of water from one to the other to help each other get through the survival of what was coming. The films were color, and they were very shocking. 8 years had passed of unbelievable worldly transformation. People went about their day. Everything had changed in their life. But they were going about living. Going about living takes an unbelievable strength. But it does not take superhuman strength. It takes connection to yourself and to the simplicity of the inner, calm, centered directive that goes, do this, do that, listen to me, we've got your back, it's okay. Finding that voice when your mind is scattered, when your mind is out there in the universe trying to figure out how and why and what and all of that stuff. No, just come in, sit down, be present, and let that help you and let that guide you. And we're at a point in time where people need that. This meditative practice is one approach. It's not the approach. There are multiple approaches. But I will tell you, the wonderful thing about this practice of sitting still, breathing into your heart, breathing into your gut, asking for help, to surrender, which means to accept, to be present, to witness, to be there, is exquisitely directive and helpful. Because if you can remember to do that, you will move through the variable spaces around you with a kind of equanimity and a kind of balance and a kind of harmony that will make life sweet, recognizable, meaningful, filling, even joyful, in the midst of all sorts of stuff. I was watching America's Got Talent, not one of my favorite television shows, but when Blanche goes on the treadmill now, I used to go on the bike. Now my doctor said don't do that, but I sit there and I watch the show and I'm going, why am I watching this thing? But every so often something happens that's really kind of sweet. And then the very last person on the show this particular week explained to me why I was watching. She had terminal cancer. She was given 2% chance of staying alive. She had written a song about the joy of being. And she sang this song to the world. I've never seen a more luminous face, ever. Just joy pouring forth. And I'm watching this like filling with emotion and appreciation. And then she's done, and of course, they gave her a golden buzzer and did all this stuff that they do on America's Got Talent, often for people who don't have talent. But she had something very real. I don't know if it was talent, but she had a gift to communicate something that anybody who bothered to watch the whole show was able to get. And that is this joy of being. And then she said something that was so beautiful. She said, you don't have to wait for life not to be hard to feel happy. And that just went boom for me. Because so many of us wait for life not to be hard. We'll be happy when it's not hard. Well, you tell me when it's not hard. You tell me. I have been living 78 years, and there are days where it's conflict and drama, but there's always something. There's always something that has edges to it, that has complications to it, that is difficult, that is more than we want it to be. And there are many, many of us who choose in those moments not to be happy. And I don't know what could be more dramatic and more demanding than being told you have 2% chance to live. How would you be happy? And yet this woman was radiant. You can find it on YouTube if you want to see what I'm talking about. But what I'm really trying to say to us, to all of us, is that happiness, which is an odd word because it has the opposite of unhappiness, but let's go to something like contentment or well-being or aso, is doable. And it is a wonderful way to be present to the hardness and the softness and the sweetness and the bitterness and the difficulty and the struggle and the amazement of being alive. And we need to reference that regularly for ourselves. And then, which is probably the most important, sharing that with others. This woman shared that with the world. She served me greatly. We have, I think, at this moment in time in our lives, an opportunity and I think a commandment, really, to be present for others, to show up, to serve, to understand what service is. I've talked a little bit already about this idea of all of you teaching. And I'm going to evolve that over time. This is not the moment, but I'm going to evolve that over time because I think sooner than later, your ability to share this work on one level, more importantly, to share being, to share your heart, to share your compassion and empathy for others is going to be really, really important. Not casually important, not like a nice thing to do. I should just do that. It's going to really be needed. And I'm finding that personally with people I love and care about who are really, really having difficult times, and how I have to be available to them. And it's not hard because it's not me in a way that's doing it. It's happening through me for them. And the incredible thing about being a servant of, a channel of, and a space of availability for something to be shared with others is that it empties you out, which is a great gift, to allow this greater comforting awareness to move out into the world. It's a loving embrace of the other. And I talk about this now weekly. I talk about goodness and kindness because I don't know how to pursue the spiritual dialogue without coming down to the most simplistic version of it, which is be a good person, be a kind person, feel for others, do for others, put others in front of you. The reason you were born, yes, it's for you to have a life, to have fun and do things and get drunk and have sex and eat great food and all that stuff. Yeah, that's all part of it. But there's another part of it. That is, you're here to see, witness, experience the other, and then provide comfort, provide acknowledgement, provide whatever it is you can give to others in whatever way you can. Teaching this work is a very real and direct version of that. And I want sooner than later, and again, I'm moving in this direction, to anoint you to do that. Some of you are already doing that. Sal is doing that. You know, there are people here who have been teachers before, but teaching is not a rising up to higher stature. It's really just becoming available to the universe to give these simple, energetic realities of caring, showing up, reaching out, asking if you're all right. Can I help you? What can I do? How are you doing? That's the basic. That's really the basic. But after that, if you want to take this deeper, you go into your heart chakra, you go into your belly chakra, and you become really, really present. Really present. It's not hard to do. And you become, without trying, without effort, without anything, this tree giving off oxygen. You become this thing that provides for others just by being. And every one of you here is already, to some degree, in that process. All I would like to do is give you a higher level of permission to acknowledge that and do that. And ultimately, if you want, to tell other people you're available to sit with them and be with them and offer them this. The tricky part of that is that Rudy never offered, really, to teach. He always waited for someone to ask, because he felt that it had to be their responsibility to want, not his responsibility to give. So in a way, you can't really say, I can give you this, but you can present a present tense being that someone says, can you help me? Or you can hang out a shield and say, I can do this if you want it, but they have to ask. When people ask, you show up. And if you can be really available to the people around you and show up, because trust me, you know a lot of people who need you. You really do. There are people who need you. They may not say it out loud, but they need your comfort. They need your attention. They need your in a way, permission to be happy. And if you can find that, if you can find your ability to give that to them, you carry the blessing through you. You are the vehicle of the blessing. And anyone who's sitting here hearing this right now is already that. Already that. You're not here for no reason. So we are moving toward something, I'm feeling it very strongly, where our ability to find stability in the midst of turmoil will give us the strength to sit with others and give them that stability as well. That's who we are. It's what we can do. It's what we will, in a way, have to do if you want to serve this thing that you have already been given as a touchstone in your life. This is an amazing thing we've all been given, honestly, to have the inner being of the universe already speaking to us, coming up through us. So many people we know only have what's outside, and they are completely out of touch with this inner help, completely. There's a cartoon I saw recently in the New Yorker of a party, a dinner party, and people standing around at a party, and there were the little groups, and each group had a signal of a sign of what they were talking about. Last year's vacation, the grandchildren, how sick I've been, and you go to the group that you feel is the group that's talking your talk. And it was really funny to me, because I think that's exactly what we find at most dinner parties. And you don't find people talking to you about the goodness of and the joy of life. It's just simple being. You don't find anybody just kind of articulating that stuff, or maybe you do in each one of those groups. Maybe that you can be that person. But the fact that most of it is so one-dimensional, so mundane, so out of touch with real kindness and service and goodness. And so all I can say is, and I know I'm saying it weakly, but I guess you can't say it enough, the real essence of our work and what we do is finding the place from which we can take the energy, take the guidance, take the gift of knowing and life of whatever we know or not knowing, and lovingly, quietly offering it to that which arises in our life daily. It works. It just works. The guy who made sushi for Blanche and I last night at the supermarket, I just bowed down, and he just seemed so happy to have been appreciated for having, and in his terms, and it was like tiny gesture, but I was told, I wasn't even told, you just kind of know to do that stuff. Enough of that goes out and then just spreads around, and you become the light that illuminates the world. And that's what you are. It's what you have been. It's what you need to be. Take it seriously. Don't just walk around thinking someone else will do it, or Bruce will do it, or whatever you think. It's really you. You have already been anointed. You are anointed. Be the light. Be the light. Okay. Any questions? So.
Yeah, recently I've become convinced that is developing feature of our practice, and that's the connectivity, the sense of family, the real family, that we have with each other. And I think it's something very real, and I think it's kind of related to what you were saying today. But it is something that I think is new, and that is in the process of development.
Yeah, I'm not sure you all heard that. Sal was talking about the community that we are and how new and important it is as family. And that's really, really true. I mean, the fact is, many of our families do not provide this. If anything, they need this from us. They provide the opposite. They drain, they cause conflict, they have their tensions, they're getting old. All of the stuff that happens in family circles is not conscious being connected, serving one another, loving one another. It's more draining in many circumstances. This is a conscious family. It's a conscious group. You guys are part of a conscious group. But you can also share that if you're not in a communal setting like this with each other, with others out there, you can create this world of presence. Again, I talked about it last week, I think. You can sit with people without ever saying one spiritual word at all. You just become this presence, and it is felt. It is imbibed by people, and you can feel it at the table. You can feel it walking down the street. People are enlivened by your presence. It's a really powerful capacity, and we all have that. Is there anybody online here? I wasn't sure if the hands went up. Nope. Is there anybody else here? Okay, so thank you guys for participating in a 21st century connectivity. Some of you I will see soon in person. Tara, I look forward to your visit. Chris, I hope you're feeling better today. Good. I love you all there. And of course, I'm very grateful to all of you who made the trip here. And we'll see everybody on the West Coast next week. Thank you. Take care of yourselves.